you, I just got upgraded to doctor. Dr. Alex, yes, that sounds good. All right, so a few years ago, all I wanted to be in life was an electronic engineer. That's nothing else. 5 years old, I decided I'm going to be an electronic engineer. I'm going to work with robots. Then I ended up making different things in life. I became a ballet dancer, then became a worked to the U.S. Army. So, but eventually, I was able to find this space in California. It was a 35,000 square feet space. It was empty for over 10 years. Then we took the location. We decided, well, for software people, you can go to anywhere. You can go to a coffee space in a corner, open your computer, and boom, you have a company. For hardware companies, that's different. It's a real business. From day one, you have to think where I'm going to buy the machines, what kind of office I'm going to be at it. So they said, well, let's take a space. And then we built a bunch of office space in there. We built a wood shop. We built an electronic lab. And the idea was that as long as you had a membership at the space, you would not have to buy any equipment. It's kind of like a makerspace, but it was an upgrade to it because we focus on robotics and mechatronics only since the beginning. Then that's how Circuit Launch was born. We started as a co-working space, that's what we called. Now we're calling co-factoring. Co-factoring is the evolution of the model. Co-factoring is a level below what a factory is, but above what a makerspace is. It's a place where you're going to go make your first few hundred pieces. We don't have a problem in the world with mass manufacturing. We have a problem with low-cost manufacturing. So then today we have about 80 companies in there, all of them between 1 to like 5 people. It has been an amazing experience seeing companies start with one little desk and grow to over 100 people. Collectively have raised over $100 million within the last 24 months. And we have companies like Refiber. It was founded by 3 girls from Carnegie Mellon. And what they did was they figured out a way to do textile recycling. I was born at Circuit Launch. So they take the material, it goes through some sort of x-ray, and then analyze the content of the cloth, the percentage polyester, cotton, nylon. It gets sorted out, and then it goes through a chemical process. That chemical process transforms the whole material into a thread. Then that thread makes the clothes back again. This way you can recycle more than 93% of the clothes and keep 80% of the dye. We have companies like Ethereum Matter. Was founded by a designer from Apple, and what he did was, well, everybody's getting fat with your cell phones, so let's figure out a way to do a workout machine for the metaverse. And what he did was he built this machine that allows you to go inside, and as you go through this world, you're actually doing exercise. For example, if you're flying over Tuscany, and you're doing real exercise, and because the machine is very precise, it can calculate your weight, your height, it can do minimal like movements, so you can do always the right movement based on that environment that you based at. We have companies like, hope something happened.
Oh, we're back. We're back, Alex.
I went back, yeah. No, it doesn't go forward. There you go, we got it, yeah, thanks. So CardCan was a spin-off out of Google. It's a product familiar to what Koreans actually know now. So it's a delivery robot at first. You can use the same platform to build larger cars, and it's constantly being used by factories to transport tools within a factory. They have a lot of robots here in Korea. They grew out of Circuit Launch from like a team of 3 people to over 100 people now, and they have over 500 of these robots all over the world. A lot of universities in the United States use them. Then you have Urban Machine. In the United States, most of the construction up to 5 floors is made out of wood, and all the wood is thrown out in the garbage. So this company, what they did is they create a whole robot that cuts the tips of the wood. Then it goes through a robot. The robot automatically identifies all the screws and all the nails and finds them and removes them. And then it goes through a refinisher and refinish them, and you put the wood back into the market. Also, Zozi. If you haven't heard this, this is I'm assuming it's a mechatronic crowd, but if you haven't heard yet, you're going to hear a lot about this in the next 15 years. Androids, cyborgs, humanoids. So a cyborg is a human who really wants to become a robot. An android is a robot who really wants to become a human. And a humanoid, it's any machine that executes tasks based how we humans kind of execute. Maybe it has 2 arms, maybe it has 2 legs, it has a torso, maybe a head. It does not need to look like a human, but execute tasks similar to what we do. We have become cyborgs already because of the cell phone. We have moved from sapiens to techno-sapiens. And as techno-sapiens, we can no longer evolve without technology. This is an Android. It was built by Hollywood director. Her name is Zosie. It was done initially to be a companion to elderly. I don't know. They made this look like Chuck. I don't know if that helps. Nobody haven't seen Chuck. You should watch that. It's very creepy. We have 1X Robotics. 1X Robotics was a company that was founded in Norway, and they've been at circuit launch since 2018. OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, just invested $23 million in them about 3 months ago. They used to be called Haloti Robotics, and then they merged into 1X. That's the company that OpenAI chose to install the AI to it. Then on that process of building circuit launch, we thought that we kind of started to look a little bit more like a college, because all the companies in there are telling us that they have a better education experience than they don't have in a university. So we started playing with this idea that maybe we could be an alternative to a college degree at some point. It turns out that a lot of people don't see value in college anymore. The 4 or 5 year degree in a world where you can watch almost anything you want in a 15-minute YouTube video that you can watch at the double the speed. Going to college is not making too much sense, especially in North America. That's so expensive. So we started playing with this idea of building a company that does that. So we did a spin-off called Mech Labs. And Mech Labs is a mechatronic engineering program focused on what we call the modern student that does not need a structure, does not need textbooks, and that does not need theory, at least not at first. It's all based on products. There's a whole kind of a program how we use this. We assign a bunch of different scores for different projects, and as you build them, you get stuck in certain areas, and you get stuck in those areas, then you figure out the need to learn about physics, about the mathematics, but it's only them. Because we outsource a lot of our processing power already to the cell phone. We don't need to go to school to memorize stuff. It's no longer necessary. It's just no longer necessary. We keep doing this for reputation purpose, but if we're going to go for reputation purpose, we're talking about 30 universities in the world. All the other ones are very questionable in the business model right now. So it's been an amazing experience to do this, because we didn't get into it because of the education, but because of circuit launch, we figured out a way to take labs outside of universities and putting them in a private area. And then we layer with the education space. The idea is to have one of this in each US state by the end of 2027. This year we're building 2 more, also building 1 extra unit in Brazil, and we'll look into other locations right now. So as an entrepreneur, I don't want to do anything else with my life. I figured out that a way that I can cause some impact, and then also as a solution for my kids. I have a couple kids that's 7, 8 years old that I'm really scared for what they're going to do with life with AI. And I'm like, I don't know what you guys are going to do when you grow up. So I'm trying to figure out a solution for them. I don't know if this is necessarily a solution for everyone, but it's one of the solutions being developed within probably about 30 minutes from where I am right now in the valley. So this is the factory of the future. It's not that smoking thing that we've seen around like before. There are heavily additive technologies. And if you are in manufacturing in any way, usually when you're doing that, you think about 5 things. You're adding, you're removing, you're cutting, you're shaping, you're bonding. You're doing those 5 things for the most part. So factories have to do this in an effective way they can do in low quantity. So this is kind of like how factories in the future look like. We need to figure out a way to attract younger people to work on these things. We don't have enough people to work in manufacturing. There's this whole economy being formed around it. Let's call it the titanium economy. So instead of the silicon economy, now it's a titanium economy. Those are companies that are usually in the hardware space. They can produce in small quantities. They're very highly efficient, especially now with AI. Companies that had 50 people, now they can have 3, which is amazing. They're highly automated, and they adapt really quick, obviously because of the size and because they can use AI to do that. This is based on a principle that's been happening in the Valley for probably another 30 years now. They start with the things called the maker revolution, which is we are in the era where you can do anything. The maker movement, by a lot of metrics, was a bust because it focused very highly on artists. There's nothing wrong with artists, and with the hobbyists, not the entrepreneurs themselves. So it catched with a lot of popularity, and it became a huge thing, and then boom, a bust based on the people don't want to go to them. A lot of places have fab labs, and that's how they kind of was built on top of that idea, but the attendance is really, really low. And the idea is because I think they're not really focused for entrepreneurs, for people who want to make field things to sell. They were focused on the person who wants to experiment. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, you have to figure out people who want to do business, because that's where the attraction is. That's where people keep going to your space and keep building those things. So Tech Shop was a huge, this is one of the companies we had at that point, at that era that went out of business, which had a similar idea, which was this maker space that they wanted to put in very different places. The new trend right now is that a lot of these maker spaces that became more evolved, what I'm calling co-factoring, they're transformed into schools. And they're being called now maker schools. So they're no longer that space like we had, like I showed you, with just like a random thing with little machines. They're becoming very professional. This is M Hub in Chicago. It was a factory, a Motorola factory. And then what they did was they built this co-work on top of this factory, and they have this amazing lab. They can do a lot of stuff in there, especially for robotics. It's a gigantic whole block facility. You have places like Mass Robotics in a smaller scale, more like a co-working hub type of thing, but they have a lot of training and a lot of automation in this place. So you see slowly this place is taking part, and a very important part in education and in training of the ecosystem. Then we did this really well, and I think we're getting a lot of traction the way how we're doing. And then if you wanted to do the same thing, here's what I suggest to you. Focus on the community first and the business later. This is kind of a little tough to tell people to do it, but it's, you know, our job as entrepreneur is to find monkeys and to find bananas and to make sure those two meet. You have the B2C, business to consumer. You have the B2B, business to business. You have the B2M, banana to monkey. It's the only business that we entrepreneurs have to do it. And in that process of doing this, you have to find the monkeys first. Go after the community and then find the bananas for them. That's kind of how we did it. Your monkeys will be different from mine. Our community is different from yours, so focus on gathering them, figure out what they need, and then offer them what they need. And then you have to set guardrails. The guardrails cannot be too strict. It has to be enough that you say, well, only mechatronic community, people who are building robotics will be part of this ecosystem. But it has to be large enough that you don't say only mechatronics that produce chips do it. Because one thing I've learned is that every time when I see the space that say we work on innovation, but by saying that you work in innovation, you're no longer innovating. Because innovation, by definition, is finding the mistakes, finding all the cracks and everything that nobody's seeing and happening. You don't do that if you can think ahead. So one thing we decided to do is that we're not going to filter people based on what we believe it's going to work out. Because if we're going to filter companies based on what we believe is going to work out, a year ago, all my companies will be in blockchain. 6 months ago, all of them will be in metaverse. And now they'll be all in AI. Because that's how we think is going to work out, right? We're going to go with the trend. That's not the idea. Filter the guardrails and just learn with the ecosystem. You're there to learn. You're not there to dictate. Remove the bad actors. No assholes policy. People who cause harm to others in space should be removed immediately. There's no buts, no ends. Just remove them out of the space. And when building infrastructure, which is the last lesson here, which I thought I was a tech company, you are a real estate company. When you build an infrastructure, just think the economic as real estate and not as a tech company. This will help you immensely. And what schools can do, we need a lot of engineers. Universities cannot provide them. This next 10 to 15 years is going to be a gigantic growth. The United States has less schools right now than we had like 10 years ago. And it's just going to continue to increase because the model has worked. It's different now. People want different things. Then what can employers do? You should start thinking about this immediately. You should start abolishing requirements for people to go to university to work for you, because if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to compete, because you're not going to be able to take people out of college to do this. There's not enough people. I repeat, there's not enough people to do it. There's a lot of states in the United States that abolish the need for you to have 4 years degrees. Why? Because they can't hire. And then if the state can do it, if the government can do it, you can do it. What the government can do, things like in North America, we kind of like create a very bad reputation for those people who did not go to a 4-year degree. That's a big problem. And a place like Germany did a much better job. The government, this is a role of the government, is actually to normalize the need of people to come to go to technical schools and to find different pathways to work. This is a government job. We have to make younger people believe that they are going to be okay if they don't take the college route. It's okay if you take the college route, but it's also okay if you don't. And we have to create mechanisms for people to do that. And the non-degrees schools are coming up, and the adoption of the market has been higher than any other form of education had in the past. It is changing dramatically, and I'm really afraid that schools, 4-year traditional schools, are going to be really caught up on this and not going to be able to catch up. So they are doing a lot of partnership with our industry, which is interesting, but they have to change. In order to change, they have to fire a lot of people. and they're not going to do that. And I would highly recommend your organizations, your communities to foment the creation of co-factories. I would not recommend you to do fab labs, which a lot of people have done in the past. Think of the professional level. You have to go to the professional level. Professional, semi-professional machines, not just the maker fab thing, for people to make things to sell. And that's how the economy turns around. Every country needs it. And hopefully this way, we can at least compete in a bit with the machines, because we are going to live in a world that we're all going to get to watch it, where we are not going to be able to compete. And speed is the #1 thing that we need right now. It's not saving an investment. We need to make this happen and make it happen right now. So thanks so much. That's